There and welcome. Thank you for coming. If this is your first time, I hope you enjoy this. My name is Tammy and I'm with Country Girls Tumblers. Please give me a thumbs up, like, share, and consider subscribing for future videos. This is the cup that we're going to be working on today. And it's going to be really simple cup. I just wanted to go over something that I would do different in the future when putting on water slides. So the first thing we need to do is we need to prep our cup, and this one has already been prepped and painted. And by prepping, I sanded it, wiped it down with 91% alcohol, and I spray painted it white. And here we are using about 5 milliliters of the Tumbler coating epoxy, and we are just going to put this on really thin, and this will help hold our glitter that we're going to be putting on. Now, yes, I was working on a different cup and I got some black dye on this glove, but the color that we're using, you're not going to be able to see this black underneath the glitter, so I just went ahead and went with it. So you can see it's really hard for me to get this epoxy on this cup, and that is the whole intention. You don't want very much in order to put it on. Now, another trick is once you get it on, I would start patting it, and I'm sorry I didn't get that part in this video, but just use the palm of your hand and pat it. And we're going to go in with the June 2021 Luster Dust from Mr. Nola's Glitter. And we're going to apply that all over this cup. And it doesn't matter how you put this on because it's just going to be, this cup is going to be totally coated with it. Now, whenever I go to lay down this glitter, you will see what I'm talking about with the epoxy. And it's going to be kind of like this method right here, where I'm just rolling that glitter on. But you also want to take your fingers and just mash that glitter on, and the epoxy, it'll help get any of the lines out of the epoxy from where you're smearing it on. So you just want to do this right here with the epoxy. But here what we're doing is we're patting that glitter down into the epoxy, and that way it'll help not have to use as much epoxy later on to get it smooth. And here we're just going over, this is some glue mixed about 50-50 with water. And we're just going to coat this glitter really good, and that'll help hold it into place. But we're also going to put a second layer of glitter on. So it'll help keep that first layer in place and will allow us to put a second layer of glitter on at the same time. You just want to go over and get it coated really well. And we're going to go back in with our Fabulous Festivities glitter from Mr. Nola's, and once again, this is June 2021 mix, so it's not available anymore. And Mr. Nola's is actually in a transition, so they are changing their website, and I will try to get a copy of the link and put it down below. We're just going to tap that excess glitter off, and this is what it looks like. Now here, I left the bottom uncoated because it had a good coat, but also putting that glue on, I can see when it's cured. And we're going to go back in now that it's cured and apply another layer of glue, and this again helps hold that glitter into place so that whenever we start our epoxy, it won't be shifting. So just get a real good coat of that glue all over it. And we're going to go in with this platinum clear from the epoxy resin store, and we're going to mix up 20 milliliters. So this is kind of like a flood coat at the end. And we're just going to make sure we get that epoxy on this cup really well. And this will be kind of thick, so we'll only have to do one layer. And with pressing that glitter down, I only had to do the one layer of epoxy over this glitter. So just make sure you get it on really well. I start in the middle and then go to the bottom and the top. And I also take from the bottom and move my finger up to the top so that I'm not getting a lot of that epoxy on the inside of the cup. You want to pay close attention to the bottom of the cup and make sure it's good and coated. So I'll let this spin for a few minutes, and then I'll change the direction, and I will take my torch and use it to pop any of those micro bubbles that I get in my epoxy during the application process. Here I'm just going through and I'm making sure that's good and coated all the way around. If I see any what looks to be like dry spots, and any of that little bit of glitter that is sticking up, I'm pressing that down to get it coated really well. And here we're going to go ahead and torch and pop those micro bubbles. And I typically torch about 2 revolutions. And we're going to let this spin. Now once that's spun and cured, we're going to go in and you can see the glitter that is poking up above the rim. We're going to sand all that glitter off. And also you want to get just a tiny bit of that stainless steel exposed at the rim. Now once you get that sanded and you've got just a tiny bit of that rim exposed, we are going to be finished with this part. And you can see how we've got that sanded off, and it's good and smooth up at the top of the rim. And there's just a faint stainless line. Now if you like this color, you can see it's reds, it's blues, it's golds, it's greens. You can mix your own glitter like this. Now I didn't show this part. This is the water slide that we're going to use. I got it from Literally in Rose, and I spray painted it white. And the reason why is so that we can see this water slide once we get it on this glitter. Now this is where I would do something different. At this point, I've just got a airbrush gun, so I would most likely airbrush a little area white. That way you can still see through the white, but it will allow you to see your design on the top. So we need to get some warm water. Now that white spray paint has dried, and we're going to soak our water slide in it until it starts to come off of this backing. Now this can take up to 30-45 minutes. It has taken a little bit longer depending on the amount of paint and clear coat I've put over it. So once it starts to separate is whenever I wet down my tumbler in the area in which I'm going to put my water slide. Now I'm putting this on in such a manner that I slide it off instead of trying to pull the design off the paper and then lay it, or slide the paper up from underneath the design onto the cup. So laying it down face up works a lot better. And if you're printing your design, you want to mirror it so that whenever you lay it down, it'll lay down like this. So you can see I took the design off and I dampened it again. I didn't like the amount of moisture that was on it. It didn't allow it to move very much. So I just dampened it a little more so that I can get it on and positioned the way that I wanted it on this little cup. Now this is like a 15-ounce wine tumbler. So once we have it on, we're just going to start to smooth it out, make sure there's no wrinkles or creases in the design itself. And you can see here close to the bottom, I do have a little bit of issue, but that's because that's where the curve is. And this design was actually a little too large for this cup. But with this colored glitter, I think in my mind it was going perfect with this colored glitter. So here I'm just pulling each edge just a little bit and putting a little bit of pressure to get those creases out of the design. And I'm just going to lightly get that excess water off. And now that we've got it all out, we're just making sure that we smooth this down a little bit. Now we're going to let this dry for, I think I'll let it dry for 6 hours. But you can see how cute this is. So now we're going to go in with our tumbler coating epoxy. And here again, I mixed up 20 milliliters. And we're going to put all 20 milliliters on here. So this is going to be our flood coat. We're just going to put the epoxy on the same method as we always do. But using this 20 milliliters allowed me to only have to put this one coat on. There was no bubbles, there was no bumps, and this water slide went on really smooth, so there was no creases in it. And that's what allowed me to do just the one coat. Like I said, this is 20 milliliters, so it is more on the thick side, and with this being a 15-ounce wine tumbler, that gave me enough product to do just the one coat. So we're just going to put this on and allow it to spin for a few minutes. And this allows that time to move around. And once it's spun for a few minutes, we're going to go ahead and torch it and pop any of those micro bubbles that may have gotten in the epoxy from us putting it on and moving our finger through the epoxy. Sometimes I have noticed that that has put micro bubbles in it, but not very often. And I tend to stir a lot faster than what you probably should. And I do not allow my epoxy to sit for 5 minutes before applying. So once I've torched that, I'm going to turn the turner off and allow that to switch the directions. And make sure I touch up any areas on this cup, and we're going to torch it again. Here again, because I move my finger through the epoxy, I want to torch it because of any micro bubbles that I may have put in it. With epoxy that takes 8 hours, I typically go in, torch it, and rotate the direction a couple of times during the drying process. So once we've got that epoxy on, this is our finished cup. Now we'll go in and trim up anything that may have got on the rim. But I think this turned out super cute, and the colors in the dragon goes perfect with the colors that, the color of glitter that is on this cup. So y'all, if y'all like this, please consider giving me a thumbs up, liking, and subscribing to my channel for future videos. And until next time, keep crafting.